Hello everyone, and with the warmest of welcomes, we're thrilled to be here hosting Holy Cross College's Christmas selection. My name is Scarlett.
And my name is Madeline, and it's our privilege to act as your compares for this Advent event.
Originally, we'd planned to stage this performance live in the main hall in college, but as a result of the unfolding news surrounding the Omicron variant, we had been asked to record the event instead.
Yep, we want everyone to be safe over Christmas. For so many reasons, this event feels very emotional as we reflect on everything that's happened since the outbreak of the pandemic. But we want this tone of this Advent selection to be upbeat and celebratory and to fill you with some much needed Christmas cheer. We have a fantastic programme of entertainment planned for you. So sit back, relax and soak up the festive celebrations.
Yes, onwards and upwards. Our opening number performed by the college choir was the ever-popular carol Silent Night. For anyone interested in a little bit of Christmas trivia, the carol was composed in 1818 by Franz Xaver Gruber in Austria. Still an act, it is the carol's original name and was first performed on Christmas Eve of the same year.
Excellent piece of Christmas trivia there. Next, we have the orchestra playing the wonderfully Christmassy Winter Wonderland. This will be followed by Amelia reading a poem from John Betjeman entitled Advent 1955. Betjeman is a firm favourite with staff at Holy Cross, but this poem is perhaps a little less known. It offers a wry examination of our behaviour around Christmas with a thoughtful conclusion. The reading will then be followed by the Woodwind Ensemble performing a medley of extracts from Raymond Briggs's magical childhood story of the Snowman. We hope you enjoy.
Advent 1955, John Betjeman. The Advent wind begins to stir with sea-like sounds in our Scotch fir. It's dark at breakfast, dark at tea, and in between we only see clouds hurrying across the sky and rain-wet roads with the wind blow dry and branches bending to the gale, Against great skies all silver pale, the world seems travelling into space, and travelling at a faster pace than in the leisured summer weather when we and it sit it out together. For now we feel the world spin round on some momentous journey bound. Journey to what? To whom? To where? The Advent bells call out, prepare. Your world is journeying to the birth of God made man for us on earth. And how, in fact, do we prepare the great day that waits us there for the 25th day of December, the birth of Christ? For some it means an interchange of hunting scenes on coloured cards, and I remember last year I sent out 20 yards, laid end to end of Christmas cards to people that I scarcely know. They'd send a card to me. And so I had to send one back. Oh dear, is this a form of Christmas cheer? Or is it, which is less surprising, my pride gone in for advertising? The only cards that really count are that extremely small amount from real friends who keep in touch and are not rich but love us much. Some ways indeed are very odd by which we hail the birth of God. We raise the price of things in shops. We give plain boxes fancy tops and lines which traders cannot sell, thus parcelled go extremely well. We dole out bribes we call a present to those to whom we must be pleasant for business reasons. Our defence is these bribes are charged against expenses and bring relief in income tax. Enough of these unworthy cracks. The time draws near the birth of Christ, a present that cannot be priced, given 2,000 years ago. Yet if God had not given so, he would still be a distant stranger and not the baby in the manger.
Our next segment sees a variety of Christmas offerings. We begin with the A-level dancers performing to Lauren Daigle's Light of the World, a song that reminds us to avoid commercialism and reconnect with the true meaning of Christmas.
This will be followed by the college's choir. The choir meets once a week, united by their shared love of singing. The first piece to be formed is Gaudete, a sacred Christmas carol, thought to have been originally composed in the 16th century. The second is a more contemporary offering from Meg Barnhouse entitled All Will Be Well.
The world waits for a miracle. The heart longs for a little bit of hope. Oh come, Emmanuel. A child prays for peace on earth, and she's calling out from a sea of hurt. Oh come, Emmanuel. And can you hear the angels singing? Glory to the light of the world. Glory, the light of the world is here. The drought breaks with the tears of a mother. A baby's cry is the sound of love. Come down, Emmanuel. Here's the song for the suffering. Here's Messiah, the Prince of Peace has come. He has come, Emmanuel. Glory
next section introduces the college's jazz band, a weekly ensemble who meet to share their love of music. The two pieces they are performing are Glenn Miller's Chattanooga Choo Choo and A Jazzy Merry Christmas. This will be followed by the second of our readings, with Oscar and ourselves reading an extract from William Brown by Richmal Crompton.
In the story, William has conjured up an elaborate hoax to get rid of an awful Christmas present he expects to get from his Uncle George, a history book called The Kings and Queens of England. When he hears that the local Sunday school carol singing outing is taking place near his Uncle George's house, William hatches a plan to scupper the Christmas present plans by going carol singing with the unfortunate organiser, Mr. Solomon. The carol singers are known as Waits.
William Joins the Waits, from William Brown by Richmal Crompton. Many, many times before Christmas Eve arrived, did Mr. Solomon bitterly regret the impulse on which he had suggested his party of waits. He would have liked to cancel the arrangement altogether, but he lacked the courage. He held several practices in which his party of full-voiced but unmelodious musicians roared Good King Wenceslas and the First Noel. making up in volume for what they lacked in tone and technique. During these practices, he watched the outlaws apprehensively. His apprehensions increased as time went on, for the outlaws were behaving like creatures from another and a higher world. They were docile and obedient, and respectful. And this was not normal in the outlaws. Normally they would, by now, have tired of the whole thing. Normally they would be clustered in the back row, cracking nuts and throwing shells at friends or foes. But they were not. He began to have a horrible suspicion that they were forming some secret plan. The prospective waits assembled with Mr. Solomon at the end of the village at nightfall. Mr. Solomon was intensely nervous. It had taken all his better self to resist the temptation to put the whole thing off on the fictitious excuse of sudden illness. He held a lantern in his hand and a large tin of sweets under his arm. He had bought the large tin of sweets last night on the spur of the moment. He had a vague hope that it might prove useful in some crisis.
Well, here we are.
He said in that voice of rather painful brightness that he always used with the young.
Here we all are. All got your best voices, eh? Now we'll go down Will Lane first. Go straight down the lane,
Said Mr. Solomon.
till you get to the Laurels, and then turn in and we'll begin with the first Noel.
He had quite taken a lot of trouble over the itinerary. He had already prepared the housekeepers who were to be honoured by a visit from his waits. And though not enthusiastic, they were ready to receive the visitants in a Christmas spirit of goodwill. He meant to risk no unchristian reception by paying unexpected visits. The Mrs. Perkins lived at the Laurels, and they had assured Mr. Solomon that they would simply love to hear the dear little boys sing Christmas carols, and so would Muffy.
Muffy was the Mrs. Perkins' cat.
The visit to the Mrs. Perkins, anyway, ought to go off nicely. Fortunately, the Mrs. Perkins were slightly deaf. Everything seemed to be going off very nicely so far. The waits were walking quietly and sedately down the road, not shouting or fighting as boys so often did. Mr. Solomon's spirits rose.
It really is a very beautiful idea. And they are really, after all, very nice boys.
They rounded the corner, and the light of Mr. Solomon's lantern shone upon the gate as he entered, and it wasn't the Laurels, it was the Cedars. Mr. Solomon, of course, could not know that the outlaws had passed the Laurels and entered the Cedars deliberately because of Ginger's Uncle George lived at the Cedars.
Come back!
Called Mr. Solomon's thin voice through the night.
It's the wrong house, come back!
But already the waits had burst violently into the first Noel. It was a pity that they did not wait for the notes from Mr. Solomon, who had his tuning fork already in his hand. It was a pity that they did not begin all together, and that having begun each at a separate moment, each should cling so tenaciously to his own time and interpretation. It was a great pity that they did not know the words. The resulting sound was diabolical. Diabolical is a strong word, but it is hardly strong enough. The English language does not really possess a word strong enough to describe the effects of these waits' rendering of the first Noel. After 1 minute of it, Uncle George's window was flung open, and Uncle George's purple face was thrust out.
Go away, you young devils.
He sputtered.
How dare you come here kicking up that infernal din?
Mr. Solomon's voice in the rear kept up its shrill but ineffective plaint.
Come away, boys. It's the wrong house. I said the Laurels. The Mrs. Perkins and Muffy will be wondering wherever we are. Quietly, boys. Don't shout so. And you've got the wrong note.
But nobody heard him. The uproar continued to be deafening. The other waits realised that the outlaws were, for some reason or another, determined to make as much noise as possible and gladly gave their assistance. Then suddenly, silence came. Abruptly, the outlaws had stopped singing, and the others at once stopped too, waiting developments. It was, of course, Uncle George's chance, and the immediate development was a flood of eloquence from Uncle George, to which the waits listened with joyful interest, and at which Mr. Solomon grew pale.
Pardon me, sir.
Gasped Mr. Solomon, at last recovering.
Quite a mistake. Boys mistook house. Visit meant for friends of ours. No offence intended, I assure you.
But so breathless was he that only the two boys nearest him heard him. And no one heeded him, for to the amazement of all of them, except Ginger and Douglas, William spoke up firmly from the foreground.
Please, sir, we're collecting books for our library. Please, sir, can you give us a book for our library?
Mr. Solomon gaped in open-mouthed amazement at this statement. He tried to utter some protest, but could only stutter. Uncle George, however, could do more than stutter. He answered the question in the negative with such strength and at such length that the wait's admiration of him became a sort of ecstasy. William answered the refusal by bursting with amazing promptitude and discord into Good King Wenceslas. The outlaws followed his lead. The rest of the waits joined in, most of them showing their conservative spirits by clinging still to the first Noel. In front of them, Uncle George hung out of his bedroom window, gesticulating violently. Behind them, Mr. Solomon clung to the gateposts of the cedars, moaning softly and mopping his brow. But something of Uncle George's first fine, careless frenzy was gone. There was something broken about him, as there would indeed have been something broken about anyone who had listened to the ghastly sound. Again, William spoke up brightly.
Please, can you give us a book for our library? We're collecting books for our library. We want a book for boys about history, please. If you've got one to give us, for our library, please.
It was the last straw. Uncle George was beaten. With an expression of agony, he clapped his hands over his ears and staggered backwards. Then he reappeared, and the kings and queens of England hit William a smart blow on the side of his head and fell onto the gravel at his feet. William picked it up and signalled that the hymn should cease. A moment later, the waits had gone. There only remained Mr. Solomon, clinging to the gatepost, stupefied by the terrible events he had just lived through, and Uncle George sputtered at the open window.
Mary, did you know that your baby boy would one day walk on water? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would save our sons
next item is an ensemble performance of Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water, with the choir accompanied by the A-level dance students. After the events of the past 18 months, this is a moment to soothe and reflect on the journey we have collectively taken with family and friends and the comfort we have provided for each other.
This will be followed by the orchestra's performance of the Christmas song, which will bring us to the near close of our Christmas selection. So, sit back and enjoy.
my bed, and you're not here, and there's no one one to blame but the drink in my wandering hands. Forget what I said, it's not what I meant. And I can't take it back, I can't unpack the baggage you left. What am I now? What am I now? What if you're someone I just want around? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. What if I'm down? What if I'm down? What if you're someone I just want around? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. You said you cared, you missed me too. And I'm well aware I write too many songs about you. And the coffee's out at the Beechwood Cafe, and it kills me 'cause I know we run out of things we can say. Yeah, what am I now? What am I now? What if you're someone I just want around? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. What if I'm down? Yeah, what if I'm down? What if you're someone I just want around? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. And I get the feeling that you'll never need me again. Yeah, what am I now? What am I now? What if you're someone I just want around? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. Yeah, what am I down? Yeah, what if I'm down? What if you're someone I just want around? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. Ooh, 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 ooh.
And so, to conclude our Christmas evening, our full ensemble will gather to sing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." We invite you to stand with us in your living rooms, kitchens, bus stops, or wherever you're watching this from. Blast those cobwebs away and join us in singing our final number.
And finally, it goes without saying, from all of us at Holy Cross to all of you watching virtually, we wish you the happiest and healthiest of Christmases and every best wish for the forthcoming new year.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you